Gosh, Naughty, how insanely rude of Chubby and Giggles. And after you went to all that trouble to make a present. If I were you, I would throw that present in the fire and go and do something about all this nonsense.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another Kendrick Lamar review, gameplay commentary that we're doing for this Kendrick in Review week, leading up to the album Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers coming out this Friday, the 13th. We're recording reviews for all of the Kendrick albums that I haven't done yet. I did Damn way back in 2017 when it first released, and I said, hey, well, I haven't done reviews of these other albums despite me loving these albums and listening to them a lot. So let's do some reviews. And clearly at this point you've seen that I don't love every single Kendrick album, but my appreciation and love for them grows as we get further on. And here we are with To Pimp a Butterfly. And this is like the peak Kendrick for me. This is more or less the album that changed my life, and we will be talking about that. So I'll say thank you to everybody who's been rocking with this series so far. And if you're new to the series, then you can go through the channel and look at all my reviews for, at this point, as of me uploading this, I've already done a review for Section 80, and I've done a review for Overly Dedicated, and I've done a review for Good Kid, Mad City, the deluxe version specifically, because that's the version that I listen to. But there's no deluxe version for To Pimp a Butterfly, because it is all complete in and of itself. So we're going to be talking about To Pimp a Butterfly today. If you know me, this album, I'm kind of defined by this album in a lot of ways. If you look up Twitter, look up my, any of my social medias, but specifically Twitter, and I think my YouTube page is themed like this too. I have the album art from To Pimp a Butterfly as my theming there, and I just like photoshopped a bunch of stuff over it. So Kendrick is just like, Kendrick became my favorite artist of all time, probably, with this album. I was already a fan of him, as you saw in my Good Kid, Mad City review. I loved that album. He kind of transcended with To Pimp a Butterfly for me. And I have a couple of pre-notes before we get into the track-by-track breakdown, which is, of course, the bulk of this video. That's what all my videos are, mostly track-by-track breakdowns. Just to give a little bit of context here, I was already thinking about a lot of the themes and topics that were on this album before the album came out. This is around the time where, Trayvon Martin was in the news, and a lot of Black Death was in the news pretty often. Of course, that's something that's always been a thing, Rodney King, like all these other things that have happened in the past many, many years, some before I was even born. So this has always been a topic, but that was the first time where I was kind of old enough to look at that and think about it from the perspective of a black man. Because when this album came out, I was just before I turned 21. So I was still very much, even though I was in my 20s, I was still kind of a teen in that way. I was still very much an adolescent. I can say that at the very least, where I wasn't thinking too maturely. And this album kind of changed my perspective very, very heavily. Well, it didn't even change my perspective. It just, the things that I was thinking about in my head were put into music so directly and so bluntly in a way where if I can engage with these ideas and topics so directly in this music, then why can't I express and talk about these topics on my own in a more blunt and more just straightforward way? So this really changed that in me, because I'll tell you right now, I am one of those people who I mean, I'm a nerd on the internet. I'm playing fucking Naughty Bear for this video review. So you can probably tell I like video games. I was into all that shit growing up. You could call me the nerd kid or whatever. And because of that, didn't have that many black friends. And even then, those that I did have were short-lived. I had a lot of black friends in elementary school, 5th grade or so, but the rest of elementary school not so much. Same thing for middle school. Had a lot of friends like that in 7th and 6th grade, and then 8th grade not so much. And then high school was kind of the same thing, where I wasn't until senior / junior years when I had a lot of black friends. So I've had moments in my life where indirectly, without really thinking about it unconsciously, I would be minimizing my blackness to better fit in with certain groups. And once I heard this album, I was like, yo, what the fuck am I doing that for? Like, it was just so, yes, it was pro-black, but it was like so unabashed about it. It was so straightforward about it. You couldn't engage with this album without at least understanding some of these themes. Like he has some Zulu Nation shit going on in there. Like he was going hard in a way that I never really thought about or considered at the time. And so now it's changed me to the point where now I still got plenty of friends that aren't black or whatever, but I make sure that they understand that friendship with me or interaction with me has to be done while understanding that I'm like 100% black. Like, I am not minimizing myself for anybody. And I try to do that, in my everyday life. I still do use humor as a way to, introduce the bluntness of being black in America to people. But I am not sharp. I am not going to dull that edge. That edge is still there, even if I use humor as the catalyst for it. So yeah, this album really, really changed my perspective on that. And yeah, it just totally changed my entire being, more or less. So yeah. Now I will say, this album coming out, like I said, right before I hit 21, I was in college really hardcore at the time. So I'm already thinking more critically about both race and also history and also culture. Just like, you're in that environment where you're being told and being expected to think more critically in general. So I already had this shit. I was the type of kid where whenever they had an essay, it was very easy points to just be like, I'm gonna just write about being black in America, and like, just everything would tie back to that. All my essays and all my little topics would tie back to that at some point, to the point where after about 2 or 3 years of all my papers being about that, I'm like, I'm kind of getting tired of writing about this. What other shit do I have? So like, I was deep in that way. So yeah, this album came at the right time for me for all of its themes, and for me to just luxuriate in it and just drown my entire brain in the juice that is this album. So yeah, this is a top 5 album of all time for me, and it cemented Kendrick as my favorite musical artist, otherwise, hip hop or otherwise. So yeah. With that context there, let's go ahead and talk about why To Pimp a Butterfly changed my life with this track-by-track breakdown. Track number 1, Wesley's Theory. Of course, this is titled after Wesley Snipes, all of his tax. I don't know exactly what happened with the tax man that got him arrested, but he had problems with his taxes, and he got arrested for it, and he was gone for quite a while because of it. So you got to understand, like, I was already a Kendrick fan. Good Kid, Mad City made it, so I was checking out for what he was making. So it was on my radar. There was a leak that happened, and the leak did not prepare me for what this album was going to be. And the song that I actually heard from the leak isn't even this song. We'll talk about it in a moment. But like, it still hit me in the fucking face when I heard Every Nigger Is a Star. I'm like, did he? Because this is before Moonlight. Before Moonlight made that song, also famous. Plus, that song was probably popular back in the day. But that song opening the album, I'm like, what the fuck am I about to listen to? Like, it was one of those things where hearing Every Nigger Is a Star, it's like, yo, number one, what the fuck am I listening to? Number two, you're using that word, that slur that has been used against us in a really positive light. And it totally ties into the themes, like we're going to talk about with I later on. But it was something to where I never really used the word too much, because I was like, yo, I'm black, and yeah, I hang around, folks of my own skin folk, if people know what that means. But like, I never felt like that was something that I needed to say for whatever reason. But then the older I got, and especially after this album, I was like, yo, I can use this as a term of endearment. It doesn't fucking matter. And like, the more comfortable I got with myself, the more that word started to seep into my vocabulary. And not even, I don't use it as the slur that people used against us for years. I use it as like, as a term of endearment, as a term of brotherhood, friendship, whatever you want to call it. I call my friends that. I call my homies that. Like, just what it is. So yeah, that just opening it on that line was already something to where I was like changing my thoughts very quickly. And then yeah, the funk on this song is just so like luxuriously deep with the funkadelics all up and through the instrumentation on this track. I can't understate how much of a shock this song was. Like, not just that opening, but then when the beat dropped, I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's just so, it slaps you in the fucking face with everything this album is about to be. It is crazy. And then, you know, when Kendrick's talking about all these, like, when I got my first nut and all that stuff, you know, just like fantasizing about what he's talking about as a girl, but what he actually is talking about is like fantasizing with the success of being in the rap game and stuff. And that was just like, those are some of the first words you hear on the entire album. So I was like, holy shit, this is a lot. Like, it's just a lot to take in, especially when you think of this as the guy who made Backseat Freestyle on the last album. You just, this isn't quite what you would expect from this guy. And then George Clinton, you know, he pops up a lot on this song. I already knew George Clinton, but from the most unlikely source. I'm a product of the 90s. So Good Burger, that whole scene in the insane asylum where George Clinton is like doing a dance number, I knew George Clinton from there. So when I heard his voice on here, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, is that? It wasn't, I didn't instantly recognize him, but in my head, I was like, this vaguely sounds like that one scene from Good Burger. And holy shit. And this is also the age where, you know, I've always been a fan of rap. And as I said on my Good Kid, Mad City review, around middle to end of high school is when I started getting deeper into listening to oldies. When I say oldies, I mean like your funk, your R&B from like the 80s to 70s, stuff like that. Even some late 60s stuff I listened to. So George Clinton, I had never really listened to his music specifically, but his genre, his era, I was starting to tiptoe into by the time To Pimp a Butterfly came out. So like his sound, I was already a little bit familiar with. So to hear that sound on a Kendrick album, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Of course, Dr. Dre has his little snippet where he has his little answering machine message. And I think it's so cool to be like, yo, Dre, you can hop on here real quick so people know I'm still fucking with you. But like, I got this whole album. Like, I'm gonna carry this whole shit on my back, more or less. So that was incredible. And I love just the two verses here, the ignorance of black youth with money in the first verse, and then the white man that takes advantage of that black youth in the second verse, like, you know, showing that dichotomy. And I love, like, even some of the stuff in that first verse, I'm like, yo, we gon' storm the White House. Like, it's literally that image that is on the album cover of just a bunch of niggas up there at the White House, like took out the courts and everything. Like, it's literally on some, I know this is wild to say, especially now, it's on some insurrectionist shit. It's like some fucking January 6th, but we took over instead of them. So like, it's like, it's a little bit gratuitous and a little bit violent, whatever you want to say. But at the time, especially, and even now quite a bit, it's a little hopeful to say, oh, we, despite everything y'all do to us, despite all the disparaging, we could take over and we could be in charge and we can do right by the people. Because especially at the further we get into the timeline, it's like, yo, the system is not supporting the people, so the people should really be commanding the people, because we all have our own best interests in heart. If we're all part of the collective, then we all help the collective. So yeah, it's that type of shit, man. It's just so much deep shit is in this first fucking track, and it hits you in the face. You can't ignore it. Like, you can get down to the funk and everything, but like the second you try to learn the words, it's like, oh, I have to engage with these themes, and it's fucking crazy. And I love that ending at the end where it's like, taxman coming. Oh man, it just gets you so amped, and it just builds it, because the entire time it's like you're releasing energy, but like, it's the first track, so you're like, I don't have energy to release, so it's just like I'm just fucking going, and then it kind of like tries to bottle it up again just to release it again later on in the album. So the taxman coming thing is kind of like a crescendo, like, oh, it's we're about to end, cut, and then it's like, oh man, what the fuck was that? So yeah, absolutely incredible tone setter of a song, slaps you in the face with both the themes and the musical stylings of the album, and it's just a fucking phenomenal first track. And then we go on to another super, super iconic track. Another iconic Kendrick line here, For Free, the interlude. This interlude is so good where, you know, Kendrick is just snapping. He's just spitting. You know, he's rapping his little heart out. The jazz vibe here is something he's been cultivating for multiple albums at this point. You know, I talked about it on the Section 80 review and on the Overly Dedicated review. He's trying to have like this live jazz type of feel, like you're in a club listening to it live, and he didn't quite nail it. Those were some good tracks on those albums when he attempted that stuff, but he did not nail it to the degree that he did with For Free. This thing sounds like a jazz performance, and it feels like, even though it is a rap song, it feels less like a rap and more like slam poetry, and it feels so like improvisational, like not just the jazz going underneath it. It feels like he's another instrument in the band of the jazz players, rather than him, you know, being the bass line or something for the jazz players. It feels like he's just part of the fray and everything's going at once. It just feels so frantic and not really scattered. It just feels like, it's all going at once and you're just struggling to like get on the train and follow the train of thought. So it's really, really incredible. It's a rap about self-worth, and you know, this dick ain't free. That's the iconic Kendrick line. Can't tell you how many this dick ain't frees have popped up in, you know, social media posts or even as quotes on other songs. Like that's on point. This dick ain't free. Like, and that's like pointing to not only me as a black man, I have self-worth in this country that tells me to not have any worth, but it's also like speaking to the sexual fetishization of black men as well. It's like, yo, if you want the exciting, the good, the positive parts that you hype up, if you want those parts of me, you have to see me as a full person. That is the cost to getting all the good stuff. Like, you know, people fetishize black men all the time. So I was like, yo, that is a fucking great, just that little phrase. There's just so much to read into it, and that's his whole album. There's so many like innocuous seeming things where if you look deeper into it, it's like, oh shit, that's like deep or hard or wherever you want to say. So yeah, I love it. And I love the woman at the beginning, like the what the fuck you talking about, you are not my man, like all that shit. I love that too, because you gotta understand, he just released this hood classic with Good Kid, Mad City. All these songs on there had a Jay-Z feature, Dr. Dre feature, had a Drake feature, you know, a song, an album that, you know, regular rap people universally loved. And then he comes out with this like aggressively artistic album where Good Kid, Mad City was also artistic, but it was easily consumable. This is so much more challenging to someone who doesn't listen to jazz. Like I'm telling you right now, niggas in the hood don't listen to jazz. That is super uncommon. The most jazz they listen to is something like this album, maybe some Mac Miller, you know, shit like that. So to have all this going on, it is a lot to have all this shit going on at once. You just heard a fucking funk song at the beginning, and now this For Free interlude is all jazz. But having this woman arguing at the beginning grounds it a little bit. It kind of brings it back to reality and says, oh, this is about, like, he's still talking about some my world things. He's still talking about shit from the hood and all that, using those aesthetics with this young lady here. And it's just fucking, it's just such a great choice, because now people are like lulled in by her, and it kind of brings like a little bit of humor or just a little bit of relatability, so that when he goes off snapping like some slam poetry shit, it doesn't feel out of place. You're already immersed in the world. So really love that. And this song exemplifies what I adore about this entire album, because even at his weirdest and most experimental, he is spitting. Keep in mind, his flow is insane the entire song. He is rapping his ass off. This is an interlude. This isn't even a full fucking song. This is an interlude, and he's putting just as much effort into this interlude as he is for any of the full-size tracks on this album. It is fucking incredible, and I just can't get over it. No matter the beat, no matter the size of the song, no matter if it's an interlude or an outro or whatever, he is putting maximum effort into this entire album. He put his whole Badissi in this. All right, I probably could have just said he put his whole foot into it, but it is what it is. That is why I love this album, and For Free is one of the shining, most perfect examples of that. And with that, we'll go on to the next track, King Kunta. Now, this is the song that I heard that leak of ahead of time. When I heard this leak initially, I was so baffled by it. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I only heard like a couple seconds of it. That's the thing. Like, this wasn't the full song, but I was just like, what the hell is this? It was so different. It was unlike anything I ever heard. I was like, is this nigga rapping on the fucking Fat Albert theme song? Like, it was so out there at the time. And I thought he was trying to go like poppy on some like Uptown Funk type shit. Like it kind of sounded like it was having that vibe. Now I don't think Uptown Funk was out by the time 2015 came out, but in my head I was like, is he just going into some weird poppy place that I am just not ready to fuck with? But not only is this song very catchy, it is very catchy. It is so it was a hit. Like fucking yoga moms were playing this in the fucking gym. Like it not only was it a hit, but it is referencing some like black as fuck shit. Like the whole "do you got the yams, what's the yams?" Like that's black as fuck. The whole Richard Pryor reference. The fact that the whole song is named after fucking Kunta Kinte from the fucking Roots. Like he had white women out here getting down to fucking Toby. His name ain't Toby, his name is fucking Kunta, but you know, it's the joke. But yeah, I find it so fascinating that he was able to pull the song off. And he's still snapping. He is still rapping at the peak level of ability on a beat like this. Something that sounds so like, it is funky, but it's like, if it's a different type of funk, where it doesn't feel as grandiose as like a lot of disco-y type of funk. It feels very simple, very basic, very down to earth in a way where I'm like, okay, that matches Kendrick, but it's also like, that is not what you stereotypically think of when you think of funk. It is crazy. And it's also kind of like a victory lap thing, because Good Kid, Mad City just blew up. It was considered a classic. You know, everyone loved it. And he knows he's the GOAT. He knows he's the GOAT, and this is the song. This is kind of his victory lap song. So him to get off his bragging. And it's also kind of a bragging song and just an anthem for like pro-blackness. Like, you know, just feeling like I'm King Kunta. Like, I am the king of this shit, and I'm using the name I was born with rather than the one y'all gave me. Like, this is some totally, like, yes, it's 2015. This is Obama era shit. This is right before all the shit with Trump happened and, you know, everything fell down. And before we look back on the Obama administration with the criticism that we should look at all of our presidents with. But at this time, it was like, yo, Obama was already like the symbol of like, yo, I am doing this shit the way that I want to. And so we all looked up to that at the time. And King Kunta is emblematic, or just another example of that, where it's just like, yo, I'm doing the shit the way I want to, and I'm the king at it. Like, let's fucking go. So yeah, love that. Already made I'm looking at my notes here. I have notes that I refer to while I'm doing these videos. Already said the Fat Albert thing. That ghostwriting line, like some of y'all sharing bars, like you got the bottom bunk in a 2-man cell. Everyone pinned that bar on Drake. Everyone thought that was Drake. Everyone thought he was, you know, talking shit on Drake. But the thing is, that line fits for a lot of people. There are a lot of rappers out there that use ghostwriters. And to a certain degree, I mean, as I've gotten older, I've cared less about if a rapper uses ghostwriters, because very few rappers are really standing by their lyrics. Some people are literally just rapping just to get this money and then dip out, which is fine. But like, it just depends. If you got the charisma, if you got the swagger, then people are going to listen to you for your charisma and swagger, not your bars. But if you claim to be a wordsmith, if you claim to be an artist that is about your words and you don't write them, then that's a problem. Because there's plenty of artists that are just out here for the vibes and don't really care about the words. That is totally fair. Honestly, like we talked about Drake just a second ago, Drake is one of those artists where he looks at himself as a commodity more than a lyricist. I'm sure from the onset, he looked at himself as a lyricist. He was trying to be one of the greats. He saw that potential in himself, and a lot of us saw that potential too. But once Kendrick came out here and was unabashedly the creative force, not just lyrically, but in everything about his music, Drake we all looked at Drake as just like, oh, he makes some good bars and stuff, but he isn't as creatively enriching as a Kendrick Lamar. And now Drake, you know, I guarantee you he uses some ghostwriters. I don't know that for a certain fact, despite, you know, there's a bunch of proof to that degree that has come out in the years since. But, you know, Drake's going to get his fucking money no matter what. Ghostwriter or not, he's fucking more paid than I'll ever be. So it really doesn't matter at this point. But that bar, that shoe fits for a lot of people. So, you know, everyone pinned it on Drake, but come on, that could be anybody. So yeah, shout out to the Yams also. And the song is aggressive, but like I said, with the pro-black anthem stuff, it's aggressive in the like, I'm the shit bitch type way, where it's not necessarily violent. It's just like, yo, I'm really that dude, like put some respect on my name. So I really love that. And yeah, the We Want the Funk at the end. Oh my God. When I heard that, I was like, what the fuck? And like, the thing was crazy. I was amped though. Like they would say, we want the funk at the end. And I'd be like, I do want the funk, motherfucker. Like, this is fucking hard. And it was just so crazy. I couldn't believe that this song sounded like this, that he leaned into the We Want the Funk chant at the end. Couldn't believe it. And then you had the poem that started at the end of the song. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Is this just some like, what is this, like some error? Like someone dropped this in on accident? And turns out that poem is an important through line. It is a really effective framing device for this entire album, which we talked about framing devices on all of my previous album reviews. One hell of a framing device for the fucking ages. So love that about this album. But then we go on to the next track, Institutionalized, featuring Snoop Dogg, Anna Wise, and Bilal. I think it's Bilal. If I'm wrong, please say so in the comics. I apologize. But anyway, Institutionalized. I love this song. The opening beat is pleasant. It's one of those beats where it's like a good, chill, relaxing beat. But because I've talked about beat switches on Kendrick albums in previous reviews, a beat switch will annoy me if you switch to a new beat and it's not as good, or you don't use it as well as you did the original beat. And Institutionalized does not have that problem. While I did like this initial beat, this more chill, relaxing beat, they do so much with the next beat. I think it's so great. And I can't believe that they use Snoop Dogg like Slick Rick in here. Like, it's literally like bedtime story type vibes, where he's just a narrator to the story that Kendrick is rapping about. You know, talking about how he's bringing his friends along with him and they're trying to hit licks at the BET Awards, just looking at all these celebrities. And honestly, like, them trying to hit some licks in the BET Awards is given like some T.I. bringing weapons to the hip hop awards type shit. It's given that energy. It's just it's messy as fuck. But at the same time, when they are talking about the reasons for that, like looking at them like marks, like that's the mentality they've been raised by. If you see somebody with some shit, you got to figure out how to acquire that shit so you can be somebody with that shit. And you don't really take into account the fact that, at least in the hood, it's like, yo, we are all from the same place. It would benefit us more to work together to fight against a structure higher than us. But you're not really thinking about that because that seems so impossible to fight against that structure. So you're looking at the bottom, you're looking at the ground floor where you are and seeing what you can get from around you rather than what you can get from above you. But at the BET Awards, you're seeing all these niggas that are above you. So you're like, what can I take back to the bottom with me? And like, I understand that reasoning. I respect that reasoning, but it's like, yo, it can be messy, especially if you're a Kendrick Lamar who's just now getting popping and just now making a name for himself, and you trying to do right by your homies and bring them up with you. It can lead to some issues. So very interesting. He talks about it on the track. I love the chorus. I love the shit don't change until you get up and wipe your ass, nigga. Like, I love that line because it is so like, it's so straightforward. It's a metaphor, but you know exactly what she's talking about. Like, you gotta, if you want to become a different person and go to an upper echelon, you can't let the bottom feeders at the bottom of your feet follow you with you. And it's a little bit harsh because it's like, yo, these are like your family members. These are the people that grew up with you. These are the people who boosted you in your moments of downtime and whatever. But it's still a little bit valuable because I'm like, yo, if you're moving up to the next level, you have to come back to them. You have to bring the riches back to them rather than them coming up with you. Well, actually, I don't even know if that's something I fully believe in. It's an interesting perspective, I'll say. It's an interesting perspective because I do see the value in it. Like, you know how they say you can take the boy out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the boy. I think this is her saying you can try to take the hood out the boy. It won't always leave fully, but like, it's still something that, you know, you have to button it up a little bit to be presentable. And while I don't love that line of thinking, it is something where it's proven time and time and again that can help you. That mentality can help you. So I love the song, and I love, the story that is told. Do I fully agree with the message? Even today, not entirely sure on that, but I still do love the track. I do think it is a great track. Not my favorite track on the whole album, because there are just so many tracks on here that are like 10 out of 10s, but this one's like a solid 9 or so. But yeah, Institutionalized, great album, or great song on a great album. The next song, These Walls, featuring Anna Wise, Bilal, and Thundercat. I think this is a top 10 of all time Kendrick Lamar track. I love this track so much, and we'll get into why, but it opens in the most like, it's so hard to play this song at like a party or some shit. Like, this is the type of song where I want to hit the groove, I want to dance, I want to vibe, but the fucking moans, like, why you gotta do the sex moans at the beginning? I understand this whole song's about sex, it makes sense, but that moan just fucking, it doesn't get people in the mood. It makes people be like, what the fuck are you playing? Like, is he playing some fucking TikTok audio or some shit? Like, it makes people think you're weird. But after those moans, the fucking song goes off. It is fucking great. It gives the purest, like, music soul child, Jill Scott vibes, like that type of energy. And I've already talked about on previous reviews, I have been listening to a lot of R&B at this point. I was deep in my R&B bag, not just the old stuff, like I said, from 70s and the 80s and whatnot. Listen to a lot of 2000s stuff, some Keisha Cole, some Music Soul Child, like I said, some Jill Scott, like I said. And this is one of my favorite eras of R&B because it's the R&B I grew up with. So to hear Kendrick getting into that bag was just super exciting and super nice. And it's wild that he's rapping about sleeping with the girlfriend of the dude who shot one of his friends. That's one hell of a W. Like, holy shit. Like, can you imagine being in prison because you caught a fucking body, and then the friend of the body you caught makes a song about how he's sleeping with your girlfriend, or at least your baby mama, and it fucking is a massive hit. He wins a bunch of awards for it, and he performs it on Ellen. Like, what the fuck? That's crazy. And I did watch that Ellen performance years ago when it first came out, because I wasn't an Ellen fan, but I was a Kendrick fan, and anything he did I was fucking with. So yeah, fucking incredible. I love the metaphor of the walls, because it just allows him to introduce some some cold lines, like and when I come around, demolition gonna crush. I think that's such a hard bar, because you understand what he means. Like, he's gonna fuck those walls up, but demolition gonna crush, like, I don't know. That's just slick to me. I think that's fucking great. And I really love the sense of storytelling on this entire track. He's telling the story, but he's also sticking to the restraints of the format of the song, where he kind of made it to where he has to get into that demolition line at the end. And he has to match the tone and the vibe of the music he's on, because this is a more lighter type of R&B tone. And the whole song kind of feels like a live performance. Like, it just feels like I'm immersed there. Like, the music, I can, like, if I listen to the song and close my eyes, I can imagine like the lighting cues where it hits him on stage. I can imagine like the colors of the lights. I can imagine like a small lounge that we're all at, and we're all just very chill. And I can imagine us snapping in unison at the end. I can't snap. This is what my snapping sounds like, because I can't snap. I've tried for many years. I'm sorry. But yeah, it is so like, it's just a song that puts you in a very specific place so easily. So I just love it for that reason. And what other notes do I have here? Blah, 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 blah. The final verse, the whole beat breakdown, oh my God, it's so perfect, because it winds down the song, but it doesn't lose the same vibe. It kind of decreases in energy in a little bit, but it's like, it decreases in energy where like the whole, like, think of it like this. You're at a party, this song comes on, you're dancing with this girl, and y'all are like getting it the whole time, because this song is very danceable. This is a like, get on the dance floor, and you ain't fucking doing the craziest twerk moves of all time, but this is like a, just, like a more chill, like how they used to dance in the fucking Jill Scott music videos, like all that type of shit, or like your Q-Tip music videos and all that shit, like that type of vibe. But then the breakdown comes in, and it gives you that opportunity to slow things down with them, to, you know, they put their arms around your head and you can like talk to them, and this is where you like make the plans to like, so you going home tonight, like all that shit. Like it's just a perfect fucking song, and it just invites that activity with this last verse, and plus it also highlights the words. Like this is where he kind of spells out the entire theme, the entire story of the song, and it's so fucking impactful, and the song just feels sensual but not sexual. And by that I mean plenty of songs about sex, so many fucking songs about sex in vivid detail, talking about where they're putting it, how they're moving, all that shit. Literally, shout out to Trina, Look Back at Me Now featuring Killer Mike. I love that song, but goddamn, that is the most unreasonably sexually explicit song I've ever heard, and I'm sure there's worse. I know Little Rue with the Nasty song, but there's plenty of songs like that. I appreciate this song for kind of obscuring the aggressive sexuality. You know, we got the moans at the beginning, but besides the moans, this song feels sexy in a way that isn't off-putting, isn't gross. It kind of like lures you in with the vibe of pure raw sexuality without it necessarily being about the fucking physical body parts and shit like that. And I think that's really cool as someone who has not interacted with the body parts as much as I would like to. I've done it at least once, but you know, that's once. I really appreciate, you know, a song more about the vibe of it rather than the actual mechanics of it. So really love this song. These Walls, 10 out of 10 fucking track. Anna Wise fucked it up. Bilal fucked it up. Thundercat fucked it up. Y'all did good. This song's a fucking classic. I love it so much. And then we go on to a completely different type of tone and vibe with You. This song is fucking chaos at the jump. Just like the fucking screaming. It literally sounds like Kendrick is falling into a pit of despair with this song, You. And it's a self-loathing anthem. And it is a little bit relatable, though. Here's the thing. I don't love this song. This is kind of similar to the movie Midsummer, which I've talked about on Twitter a little bit here or there. But basically, if you've never seen Midsummer, it's a horror movie, but it's a very well-made horror movie. But it is so specific in the things that it horrifies you with. It is so specific in the knobs it's trying to twist in your brain of discomfort that it worked way too well for me. I watched that whole movie and I was just uncomfortable the entire time, in a way that was like not necessarily dreading. It was just like, oh, I know everything. I know bad things are gonna happen, and the ways that they keep upping the ante towards those bad things, it's like, oh, this sucks. Oh, this sucks. Oh, this sucks. And it was never like, I have to look away from this one. They always show it in like, because everything's full sunlight. They are never obscuring anything in darkness. There's not really much of jump scares in the movie, but it's just like, oh man, it's just dread the entire time. Yeah, Ari Aster fucks it up. But You is a similar song to that movie, where when I first watched Midsummer, I was like, fuck this movie, I hate it. But then as I thought about it more and more, it is a very gorgeous film. It is very well made. It's pretty well acted as well. And just like the imaginative mind of someone to think of some shit that's fucked up, I have to commend that. I think that's really impressive, that even if I find it fucked up and didn't really enjoy my time watching the movie, it had an impact on me nonetheless. And I think You is very similar, where the song's fucked up, it's dark, and it's on one of my favorite albums of all time, so of course I like the track a little bit, but the more I get older, the more I appreciate its artistic merit, even if I don't always love the emotional headspace that this track is portraying. So I really appreciate this song. I was gonna say I love it. I really appreciate this song. But I say that I have related to this song a couple times in my life, and we'll talk about it a little bit here. But there's some tones, some themes on this song that like get really dark and serious in a way where I've been on that road before, and I understand where Kendrick's coming from here. So this song continues the jazziness. This is a very aggressively jazzy song, even more than These Walls before it. And the beat transition, where the audio switches, like if you ever listen to this song with some headphones or maybe just a big speaker system, you'll hear the audio switching from left to right during the beat transition in the middle there. And this beat transition is so fucking like haunting, because the housekeeping in the background and just like the broken musical samples in the background, it feels like it's painting the mental picture of like when someone commits suicide and like housekeeping's knocking on the door, like in a movie or something. Housekeeping's knocking on the door and they open it and you just see like the unmoving hand just like waving in the air, or not even waving, just hanging off the chair or something like that. You've seen that image in movies. It's not always a suicide, but like a murder sometimes. Just like that empty room where a lot of broken emotions are lingering, but it's all dead and it's all resting. Like, it's that type of emotional thing. It's so crazy because like I listen to the song and that image is what comes into my head. Specifically, I made the note here. It reminds me of that scene in World's Greatest Dad where he finds his son dead. It's a haunted ass image, and if you ever seen World's Greatest Dad, that movie is fucking wild. But shout out to Robin Williams, he's the GOAT. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, where it just has that vibe of like walking into someone else's despair, or like you're about to walk into someone else's despair, and then that's where it just fucking hits, and this next song comes in. Now I wrote this note, I think this is completely on accident. The second beat low-key gives Cosby Show theme song vibes. I think that's just because they used a bunch of horns and it just sounds like the end of like where it's like dun, 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 dun. I don't think they meant that at all, but on this most recent listen, I thought of that and I was like, yo, that's kind of funny. Even though, you know, that's sinister, that whole thing is sinister all on its own in a different way. But the Where Your Antennas At bar, that's actually a reference to Friday After Next. That's Cat Williams' character. You know, he's got antennas. Like, you know, if you ever seen Friday After Next, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. And it's so weird to get that reference in a song like this because that is a goofy ass movie. This song is not goofy at all. So it's I really like how he's bringing these elements from all of pop culture, all of black pop culture specifically, to talk about these serious topics. And it's a type of move that I would do too. I often use references to other forms of pop culture to explain bigger emotions or just bigger things that I find difficult to explain on their own in a straightforward way. So yeah, I really love that. The crying and the glasses clacking in the background, I think that's a really nice touch just to show how raw, emotionally, just like it's a raw nerve that we're on this song. And yeah, quite frankly, I can relate to the sense of despair in this song a little bit. Now, I know at the end of the song, he's like, you know, money can't change a suicidal weakness. I am not entirely sure how common Kendrick's thoughts of suicide might be, but I feel like it's not uncommon for especially my generation to feel those thoughts in a world where, you know, I was listening to this album, of course, before the pandemic, but now that we've gone through a whole pandemic, that has proven even more just how hopeless our institutions are, just how broken everything is, and how unwilling people are to do stuff to help us out. Like it seems like there's so many examples of how things are broken, and so many people who will tell you, hey, if you do this will fix everything. If you do this will fix that. If you do this will fix that. The answers are out there, and there are people who want those answers to come across, but the people that get elected into power and the people that control things just don't let things happen. And it's really disparaging. You know, we have this natural disaster crisis with, you know, climate change and everything. And on top of that, I'm recording this a couple days after Roe v. Wade got overturned. Like, there's a lot of reasons to have despair in this fucking country. And it's hard not to be like, yo, I don't think anyone, actually, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. But for a lot of people in my generation, in the same way where it's like, why would I have a kid if I'm gonna have them born into this fucked up world? It's like, why would I keep living in this world if it is clearly headed downhill without any sense of it changing? And that is a line of thinking that has entered my brain once or twice, and I'm not proud of it. And it is something that, you know, I never let that thought overtake me completely, because there are a lot of people on this earth that I love and would not want to A, leave them behind, and B, give them that pain. But, you know, it is a thought process that gets into a lot of our brains. So for Kendrick to drop that in here a little bit, I think it's potent. I think it's very relatable, and I think in 2015 it hit, and today it hits even harder. So yeah, I find this verse very, very potent and poignant. And then the second verse being from the perspective of Kenny's friend, basically a friend of the homeboy who died. And he's way more broken up about the death than Kendrick is in the first verse. because Kendrick's distant, he's on tour, he's doing work, blah, 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 blah. But his friend has been there by his side, seeing the pain, seeing all the trauma that has come from it. And then when he says God himself would say you failed, you ain't tried. God, that hurts. That cuts fucking deep. And it's like, you can imagine how much that would hurt somebody, just like knowing that you care, but knowing that you have so many other directions that you're being pulled into to where you can't pull it all into that direction. And then they get at you because you already feel like you failed, and to have someone say it outrightly cuts like a fucking knife. So I totally understand how that would feel. And the depression Kendrick goes through being spoken on with brutal rawness here. And I love this track, but man, like I've been talking about this entire time, this track goes down so jagged. It does not go down smooth. It is really fucking rough. So yeah, probably one of the best tracks on the album, but it is a hard listen, which is such a contrast to the next song on here. Probably, I would say this next song, one of my favorite songs of all time. Rap song or otherwise, one of my favorite songs of all time. I love it so much. I've said it before, like, this song is gonna get played at my funeral, maybe my wedding. Like, it's getting played at all the pivotal moments of my life. I love this song so much, and this song is called All Right. Probably heard this song. Pharrell on the beat. Probably in Neptune's joint. Neptune's put their fucking foot in this beat. And All Right is a fucking classic to me. And it's the rap version of like one of those Disney musicals where all like the birds come out and sing and shit. Like, it has that feeling, it has that vibe where it's so aggressively hopeful, but it still goes hard. Like, Kendrick is Kendrick is fucking spitting here. Like, no matter what the beat is, he is spitting at the top of his lyrical game. His flow is on 10. Lyrically, he's on 10. Everything's fucking great here. Like I said, the Neptunes put their foot in it. I'm looking at my notes again. The anticipation of the chorus makes it so much harder because the chorus doesn't start immediately with the "we gon' be all right." It has that "now where do you go?" and "we hate popo, wanna kill us dead in the street for show." Like, just, it has that little block there, that bridge, to make the chorus even more explosive once it finally hits. It's kind of like it's edging that crescendo for you, and I think that makes the song an even better top 40 hit, but it makes the song hit even emotionally so much more. And what's critical here, I think, is that the song's called All Right, and Kendrick is talking about a bunch of issues that he faces, that just black people in general face, but like, he doesn't really offer much in the way of solution. Like, it's not like he's saying, oh, we do this and it'll be good, we do this and we'll be good. He just says it'll be all right. And by all right, he's not even saying things will be great. It won't even be better than they will be. You'll just be fine. This is a promise of just being fine. But I think this just speaks to a thing that's inherent with a lot of black people. We have so much generational trauma. We have so much fucked up shit from us on an individual standpoint and just historically our entire fucking bloodlines. And we have survived so much that we're gonna have to survive this too. And that is a mentality that so many of us have. We keep prevailing, we keep moving forward because we have to, and because we have for so long. And it's fucked up. I don't like it. I would like some fucking answers. I would like some fucking results. And we'll talk about that more as we continue on in this album. But this song is about pushing forward despite the lack of a perfect path, despite the lack of perfect answers. It's about going forward anyway, and it's about just blind positivity. And yes, there are reasons to be positive day to day, but it's so much harder to be positive when it's uncertain. And that is something where I can't tell you how many times I've played this song because I'm going into some uncertain circumstances and I'm trying to meet it with the most positive attitude I can. This song just exemplifies that for me. And so the song overall comes off as very sweet, very cheery, very pleasant, but it has an undertone of edge in that way that people like me can engage with. If you can see that edge, if you recognize it as a black person, you recognize it, you can engage with that edge. And I think this is a big reason why this song was such a classic to be chanted at these Black Lives Matter rallies, because Black Lives Matter. As a black life, life is turmoil, life is hell, but by God damn it, we're gonna be all right. We're gonna find some positivity in here. We're gonna find some joy in here, come hell or high water. And I think that's a big reason why this song resonated with so many people, not only back in the day, but still now. I consider this song to be a classic. So yeah, super relatable track. And me, as someone who tries to stay optimistic despite everything, like gestures and everything, like literally this is like my fucking anthem. So yeah, a perfect song. I have no notes. Perfect song. And by no notes, I mean literally 10 minutes of notes. But in any case, next song here, For Sale. Another interlude. Once again, Kendrick is barred the fuck up. He is spitting his ass off, and this is an interlude. And also, first off, I'll say I love the TV Land ass vocals at the start of the song. It's giving fucking the Andy Griffith Show type shit. So I love those vocals at the beginning. And then after we get through those vibes, it's let me see, where am I in my notes? The whole verse is like from a sexually alluring form of Lucifer, you know, the devil basically. And it took me a long time to realize that this song was about that. Like, here's the thing, like Lucy, very obvious. Like the fact that he keeps referring to herself as Lucy, he's rapping from the perspective of this Lucifer woman character. It took me a long time to realize she was actually the devil. And by a long time, I mean a couple months, not like years. There is one that was almost a year where it took me a while to realize. That'll be the next track. But yeah, I love how he's rapping from these different perspectives, and it's still, you know, you're still able to get this message. Ooh, excuse me. Now, the beat kind of has a weird tendency to it where he's rapping from the perspective of Lucifer. So this is evil. This is supposed to be a sinister theme here. But the beat feels like you're frolicking in a field of daisies, but like something's off. Like it feels like you're frolicking in a field of daisies, but there's like a snake somewhere in the field and you don't know when it's going to come out and bite you. So you're like nervous about running through it, but you're still in a field of daisies. So you still want to frolic, but it's just like, you know, something's off, you know, something's wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. This is the vibe. This is the tone of this song. And the lack of uniformity in the background instrumentation kind of adds to the sense of anxiety throughout the entire beat, where the main parts of the beat sound very pretty, very like kind of angelic, but just like how things aren't necessarily going with a set tone, a set rhythm in the background, it kind of makes it feel just like like something's wrong. So I really love that, how it ties into the themes here, because, you know, the whole verse is about, you know, this woman who's very pretty that Kendrick clearly has a thing for, and she's trying to allure him into, you know, getting with him and making poor decisions and leading a life that isn't godly. And I say godly because, you know, that's the opposite of Satan, of course, but also it's not necessarily about being a Christian. It's about being Christ-like. Because literally Roe v. Wade just got overturned. Being a Christian fucking sucks right now. But being Christ-like, you know, there's some nobility in that. So yeah, I really like how, you know, the themes of the album speak to the instrumentation into the song as well. Or the themes of the song speak to the instrumentation of the song. And yeah, the end instrumental fading away, I feel like the instrumental fading away at the end with the poem, you know, coming back to the top, I feel like it kind of shows that sinister side. It kind of melts away a lot of the pretty stuff and makes the track, the sinister undertones of the track, peek out for just a little bit so that you can see it for what it really is ultimately. And it also feels like you're kind of waking up from a dream, you know, in a movie where the character is waking up from a dream, how everything like kind of falls away and fades away very quickly, and then they wake up. It's like that type of vibe. I really love that. So yeah, For Sale, great track. I think it's excellent. And then we'll go on to the next track, Mama. It took me damn near a year. Actually, no, more than a year. Yeah, because 2015, and then I was working at this place since 2016, 17. It took me over a year to realize that this song was not about Kendrick going home to Compton. It's about him going home to Africa. And I feel so stupid for not realizing this. Because like you listen to the beat, you hear like the little pots and pans like clangling in the background. That is supposed to be a reference to Africa and like how, you know, they make music with the shit that's around them. Like that's the literal direct reference. And, you know, it's just something that I should have realized, you know, the fact that he's talking to some random kid. I thought this was just some random kid in Compton. And then I was like, what, like, you probably would be called out if you were just talking to a random kid in Compton as a grown-ass man. People would think that's weird. So like, should have put it together that, oh, Mr. Famous Kendrick visited Africa and is just kicking it around with people. Like, I should have put that together. I'm a dumbass. I didn't realize it, but that's what the song is about. And like I said, someone had to tell me that, and I feel like a dumbass for that. What's worse, homeboy wasn't even black who told me this. I felt dumb. So yeah, shout out to you, T.O. I remember your name. I haven't spoken to T.O. in fucking years, but shout out to him. In any case, this is some more like kind of more subtle mid 2000s R&B vibes, closer to like a Music Soul Child or like I said, Jill Scott earlier. It kind of gives that vibe once again, but it's not as aggressive as something like These Walls was. If anything, Kendrick's flow is a little bit weaker here than on other tracks on the album, but the storytelling holds it way up. I feel like he's painting a very vivid picture here, even if he's not as barred up and even if his delivery isn't as aggressive and energizing. The storytelling here is just so perfect that it kind of cancels out and brings everything up to the level that I would like it to be. I love the little sequence that he has in the second verse where he's like, I know everything. I know this. I know that. I know Compton. I know street shit. I know, like, where he's saying he knows everything. And then how he didn't know shit until he came home. I love that because it kind of like, in a similar way to, you know, I Used to Love Her by Common, the whole song where he's talking about a woman the whole song. And at the end, he reveals that the woman is actually the genre of hip hop. That verse kind of has a similar feeling here to where he's like, yo, I know all this shit, and then my entire perspective changed when I came to Africa. And people always talk about, or specifically black people, they're like, yo, you need to go to Africa, it'll give you perspective, you know, it'll change your life, all this stuff. And this is just an example of that. And I gotta keep it real, not entirely sure what, because, you know, gaining perspective, I totally understand that in concept. I would like to know specifically, like, how his life was changed. Like, I feel like this song is about how his life was changed by going back to Africa and just seeing things. What are the specific ways in which your life was changed and your perspective was broadened and such and such? Not that I'm doubting that it changed, because I know it would. I know if I visited Africa, that is a place that I do want to go to one day. I know if I visited there, I would probably come back a different person, but I couldn't pin down how, because I haven't had it happen to me yet. So I would love to see a song in which they detail what those changes are. But in the meantime, we still have this wonderful song from Kendrick here. And now we'll go on to the bar facts. Sorry, I just hit my keyboard and I thought I paused the recording. I was gonna cry. So yeah, bar facts here. Bar facts, of course, I haven't talked about on this video yet, but in the previous Kendrick Lamar videos that I made, bar facts is just a reference to a Crooked Eye line where he said, "You don't believe me? Check the bar facts," because he doesn't, you know, use ghostwriters. So bar facts is basically where I look at his bars and like just show, you know, shout out a couple of really good bars that I liked. So here's one section here. Make a new list of everything you thought was progress and that was bullshit. I like that one because it's literally saying, yo, all the things that you prioritize in American culture as being important, come to Africa and you realize that a lot of that shit ain't shit. So like, I love that concept. I love that idea. And then the next set of bars here. But if you pick destiny over rest in peace, then be an advocate. Tell your homies especially to come back home. I like how he's talking about how destiny is like, you know, living out to your fullest potential as a black man, not just in America, but in the world, living out your fullest potential there over rest in peace, like the mental death of not wanting to better yourself and wanting to do better for society. Like I like how he I like how he says it in that way. I like how he phrased that. And then be an advocate, tell your homies especially to come back home. Like, I'm sure Kendrick went back home and was like, bro, you gotta go. We'll go again next time. Like, you know, doing that type of thing where he's like recommending it to people. Like, that is, I've seen that so many times, and that is why so many people do come back and say, yo, you got to go to Africa. It changed my perspective on stuff. You know, you got a lot of black artists, hip hop or otherwise, a lot of filmmakers and such like that, and actors and stuff also go to Africa and change their perspective on things as well. So I think it's super cool that he talked about it in that way. Be an advocate, tell your homies especially. Like, it's just the way he says that shit is kind of cold. I will say one big, not even like a flaw, but just something I would change. I would have called this song Home. Where Mama, I really don't know, because I think Mama made me think he's going back to his actual mom. So that made me think he's going home to Compton. So that kind of threw me off. If you called it Home, I feel like the parallel would make a little bit more sense here. So yeah, that's on me for being an idiot, but Home just feels like a better title for this track. And I really need that world premiere track at the end. Like that, where it's like, I've been thinking about you my whole life, and every time, I need that song. I need that full song somewhere, even if it's like 90 seconds or whatever. Like, I love how manic his flow is there, and it's really given like James Brown Live at the Apollo type vibes. Like, it's given like a VCR recording of like a little known performance of a legend in like the 70s. So yeah, I really love the vibe of that track, and I wish that they would just stretch that track out to a full track somewhere. Maybe just release it as a single somewhere. But yeah, I love that so much. Yeah, that whole world premiere, like, come on, that's fucking classic. Then we have another track here. I think this track is very iconic, probably one of the most iconic tracks on the entire album. And there's definitely a lot to talk about here. Hood Politics. This song goes hard. I would say this song probably has the most Good Kid, Mad City vibes of any other song on this album. But I like it still. I like it. It doesn't feel like a regression. It feels like it's in a piece with the rest of the album. The opening, I think, is really cool. This opening beat, it feels like it's used properly. Because some of these beats I get mad when they just put skits over them and they kind of waste the beat. But this beat doesn't feel like something that should be rapped on. It feels more like just a more lackadaisical kind of chill kickback tone setter. So I'm glad that they used it for the voicemail to show, like, you know, kind of illustrating Kendrick coming back home. Sorry, I'm just kicking the table and doing all types of fun shit. I don't even know if you heard that on the mic because I turned the background noise off. Anyway, I really like that, how it's showing Kendrick coming back to his old stopping grounds, and kind of like, here's the thing. I don't know if this song is from the perspective of Kendrick, who is returning home and just blending right in with his old crew and everything, or if this is from the perspective of the old crew, of his homies, of the block that he left, and, you know, how they roll. I'm not entirely sure of what the perspective is there, but either way, I think it is a very good illustration of that. The beat on this one, it just gives me like we're rolling with 20 niggas deep, and it's like it's like 6:13 p.m. on a foggy night. Like, it's like that type of vibe where we're just like we're just all up to some, not even up to some hood rat shit, but we're just all chilling. But we're holding up that kayfabe. We're holding up that image of like the thug shit just because we're out in public. We ain't even trying to hit a lick or nothing. It's just we gotta hold that up. And so that's what the vibe of this gives me here. It sounds very casual. Like I said, it sounds like casual, like he's using the lingo, the slang of the block. Like the chorus itself. I've been A1 since day one, you niggas boo-boo. It's juvenile in a certain way that I feel, I relate to, I resonate to. No grown-ass man, like, you don't use boo-boo in regular conversation if you have a mortgage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just some, like, you know, some slightly childish shit, but it's authentic. It feels real. So, like, yeah, I really love that. Then we get to the bar facts. This is a big segment here. Now, there's a couple bars on this song that I like, but this is the segment I really want to talk about here because I got to start getting lean because we've been talking for an hour and we still have several tracks to go. So for the bar facts, here's the sequence I wanted to talk about. Streets don't fail me now. They tell me there's a new gang in town. From Compton to Congress, set tripping all around. Ain't nothing new but a flu, new Demo Crips and Republicans. Red state versus blue state, which one is you governing? They give us guns and drugs, call us thugs, make it they promise to fuck with you. No condom, they fuck with you. Obama say what it do. Now, I love this sequence of bars here because it's making that parallel, you know? It's just different factions of the same game. Like, you know, Bloods and Crips, they're both a gang, and if you know the history of Bloods and Crips, they are originally there to protect black people from, you know, all these racist white people who wanted to come through and, you know, burn their property or straight up kill their members. You know, fighting against the KKK, stuff like that. But then there was a couple of internal conflicts and such, and then, you know, all these years later, we're here with the Bloods and the Crips going together in a historic epic battle that has never ended, apparently. And they're talking about Democrats and Republicans, Demo Crips and Republicans. They are all part of the same game. Like Democrats, they're here to uphold the establishment in the same way that Republicans are here to uphold the establishment. They just want to do it in completely different ways, and it's just they're all just mirror images of each other to a certain degree. And it's just like which one you got, red state versus blue state. It's like it's making the parallel to show you that they are not all that different. Like, yes, vote blue no matter who, I guess, but like the problem isn't that we should all be voting blues. The problem is that blue ain't doing enough. Like, once again, talked about Roe v. Wade. How the fuck do we have control of like Congress and all this shit, and there's a Democratic president in the office, yet this happened? This doesn't feel real. It's just like, y'all ain't doing shit, so like, why should we think that y'all are better than the alternative? Really, it's not better than the alternative. It's that there should be at least a third alternative, or maybe we shouldn't be on binary time anyway when it comes to politics. But anyway, I'm getting off the soapbox. But I love that sequence here. I love that it illustrates all that stuff. You know, gives us guns and drugs, call us thugs, they promise to fuck with you. You know, that's a reference to, you know, the crack epidemic, where a lot of the FBI put drugs in the communities of black neighborhoods and just fucked up all their shit. And then, you know, give us guns and drugs, where you put a bunch of gun stores and stuff in our blocks, and so people are going to turn to violence very easily if you make it so easily accessible. So that type of stuff. And then, you know, the politicians are like, yo, we got you though, we're going to make your community better. And then they don't really fuck with you that much. But then they kind of hint to say, Obama say what it do, as if Obama is going to be the one to actually like give y'all a handout and stuff. And 2015, you know, right in the smack dab middle of the Obama era where he was president, we all idolized Obama so much. And I think I'm going to make a note here to add this video essay from FD Signifier, because he has a great 2-part video essay where he talks about the Obama administration and, you know, how we look back on it more critically nowadays, because, you know, look at where we're at now. Like, is the world so much greater? Like, he has a very good series of video essays here that I will be linking in the description of this video, so you can watch it. But we looked at Obama with such, you know, perfection. We thought he was the best of all of us. And turns out he wasn't necessarily a bad guy, but as a member of as someone who was elected to uphold the establishment, he did exactly that. And that is both good and bad. He upheld the traditions of decorum and whatnot in a way that the next president would never do. But he also upholded like a lot of the things that America should be cutting out, you know, the drone strikes and all that shit. The fact that he didn't make Roe v. Wade into just a straightforward law so that we wouldn't have to worry about the court decision in Supreme Court. There's a lot of stuff that he could have done a lot more, and he didn't do a lot more. But, you know, that's every president. Every president can do a lot more. But we should be more critical of them when they don't. It shouldn't just be, oh, well, yeah, anybody could have done a lot more. It's, then why aren't they? That's what the conversation should be. And so for this line here, it feels like this is something that dates the album a little bit here, where it's looking up to Obama being like, yo, he's not that he's like the chosen one, but he's the one that actually has a chance of like throwing us a bone, when ultimately, you know, we got Obamacare. I don't know how big of a bone that was. I don't know how big a bone he actually threw to the black community overall in his entire run as president. But there's a lot more to be critical of in modern day than we had in 2015. I'll say that much. So, but yeah, overall, I love this track. I think this track is great. I think this track is excellent. I think it's a good switch up. It's nice to have something a little bit more traditional sounding, where we had so many, like Mama is fairly instrumental, so much more jazz and funk influence on this album. It's nice to have something that sounds a little bit more traditional here. So yeah, I think Hood Politics is a great track. The next track here, How Much a Dollar Costs, featuring James Fauntleroy and Ronald Isley. First off, top tier storytelling, just incredible storytelling. This is literally like the simplicity of this story feels so simple. It feels like a biblical parable. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't recognize it when I first heard the song, so I had to look it up. This is a biblical parable. This is literally the sheep and the goats from Matthew 25, verse 31 to 46. So if you want to go look that up, you can. But yeah, there is so much like vague godliness on this album that it makes sense for a song to just straight up be a sequence from the Bible, just modernized. But yeah, it has that feeling. It feels like it's something like a parable when you're listening to it. So it just has that classical sense to it. I wouldn't call this song the most lyrically dense, but he is painting one vivid picture, one hell of a picture. So I really like that he's, getting in his storytelling bag even more here. And the instrumental is super grand. Like, this is the most like over the top, like just fucking theatrical score on any of the songs here, I feel like. But this scenario is super duper basic. Like, he's just talking to somebody at a gas station. Like, it's not that serious. Well, it is that serious once you consider who he's talking to, but it's just not that big a deal on first glance here. So yeah, but I do love another thing that I'll say here. I love how he's working with the Isleys after shouting them out on Mad City. If you remember on Good Kid, Mad City, the track Mad City, he's like the coroner between the sheets like the Isleys. And then here you are working with the Isleys on the very next album with Ronald Isley. The Isley brothers, I got a lot of respect for. They made Between the Sheets one of my favorite songs. They are some goats. They deserve all the respect in the world. It's cool to see Kendrick working with another well-respected legend from way back in the past, similar to how he worked with Maya Angelou on the last album. So yeah, gotta love that here. Then next up, How Much Adela Costs is a really good track. I'll say that. It's a very good track, but it just kind of, it is what it is. It's very straightforward. It says what it is on the tin. I wouldn't even call the ending a twist because I feel like it's kind of obvious. I'm a Christian. I was raised in the church, so like I'm a Christian, despite what Christians are nowadays, I guess. But I'll say I'm a believer. I'm a believer. I was raised in the church, so the whole ending twist didn't hit as hard for me when I listened to it because I was like, this sounds biblical. And then when that twist happened, I'm like, yeah, this is biblical. So yeah, I like that track a lot, but it is what it is there. Then we have Complexion. Kind of going through this a little bit faster because, yeah, I've been talking for a while. Complexion, A Zulu Love featuring Rhapsody. Love this song. This is even more Music Soul Childy. I keep referencing Music Soul Child. I love Music Soul Child. He is a great artist. I need to listen to more from him because really the main songs I like from him are his big hits from back in the day. But I need to listen to like more of his full albums because homeboy was killing it back in the day. But yeah, Music Soul Child vibes once again. Pete Rock is on the hook on this one. He's the one who's like, it's a Zulu love, like in the background during the hook. I love it because it kind of calls back to the Universal Zulu Nation, something that he's been repping for a while. So Zulu, I remember looking up Zulu Nation. I think it's more or less supposed to be like, like one love, like we're all one, unity, black unity, Zulu Nation being a nation of all, like that type of thing. And apologies if I'm mistranslating any of these words or something like that, but I understood that to be the general emphasis of it. I probably should have wrote more in my notes about that, but I have been talking for enough time, so we're gonna keep this going. So yeah, I really love this song. Shorter, more repetitive verses. I feel like the verses here aren't the strongest from Kendrick when compared to the overall album, but the vibe is perfect. I think it's great. Plenty of themes on here of forbidden love, love across differences like race, which hints to the Complexion title. So yeah, it seems like it's a small story that Kendrick's painting of a slave being in love with maybe a white man's like daughter. And I'm a good Phil nigga. Like it's interesting. And here's a bar facts I'll point out here to kind of speak to this theme. Dark as the midnight hour or bright as the morning sun, brown skinned but your blue eyes tell me your mama can't run. I think that's a hard bar because literally that last line, brown skinned but your blue eyes tell me your mama can't run, literally talking about mixed people. The blue eyes tell you your mom's probably white, which means that just the joke about, black people having genetic superiority in sports and all that stuff, so they can't run. Like the whole white men can't jump type joke, but for running. But also that your mama don't need to run. If she's a white woman, she can stay right where she wants and can just chill and doesn't really need to, live life as a person on the run. They're not persecuted as much. Now, I will say a little bit different because Roe v. Wade just got overturned or potentially overturned soon. So persecuted in a different way, I'll say. But I understand the point they're making there because when it comes right down to it, white women are going to side with their oppressor in the white man because they think it's going to give them more rights than the black people coming to take over everything that's white. So, it is what it is there, because that is their perspective. Anyway, then we go on to the Willie Lynch theory bar, where he's like, let the Willie Lynch theory reverse a million times. Now, from what I understand the Willie Lynch theory to be, it claims that the best way to control slaves is to separate them through their differences rather than let them unite in their shared dislike of the master. And this is like letting that theory reverse. And the whole song is about coming together despite the differences we have. I really fuck with that message. I love that message so much. I am, especially over the last couple of years, like this album came out 2015, from like 2017 on, I have really been of the perspective of like, yes, we all have differences, and yes, I feel like we should need to minimize ourselves, or at least in my case, I'm not minimizing myself or anybody, but I feel like we need to look at our similarities more than our differences. And if we look at our similarities more, we'll find out that we have a lot more in common than not. And that'll help us fight against the forces that are looking to downtrod on all of us. Because, from across the aisle, not necessarily just political differences, but like, racial differences, differences in perspective on different things, different opinions on different things, like, different likes creatively, like in art and such. Like, there are so many differences that define us all, and I think it's beautiful. I think our differences are beautiful and what make us us. So I don't want to minimize that at all, but I also think we would be so much better served if, as a community, not just a black community, but just a human race, we would be so much better served if we saw the humanity in all of us as a comparison point, as a point of all of us having the same thing, and unite so that we can work together against these forces that want to do us harm. These capitalistic forces, these institutions, all these things. And now that's going to save us a lot more in the long run. So I really fuck with that perspective. I really like that this song is talking about that. I'm looking at all my notes here. Oh Lord, who's calling me? Not today. I am sorry. I am doing a video. So yeah, I really love those themes. And I know on a previous video, I think it was the fuck your ethnicity on section 80. I think on that, I was talking about how I didn't really love the whole fuck your ethnicity thing, because I was like, our ethnicity, we are defined by that in a certain way, and I don't want to minimize those factors of us. But on Zulu Love, I did come around to it, and I'm just like, I agree that we should be unifying in what makes us similar rather than what makes us different, because like Willie Lynch theory says, now Willie Lynch theory isn't necessarily built completely on facts, because a lot of slavery science or whatever is not built on facts, because slavery is dumb and race is a myth at the start of it already. But it's all about unity. I think we are better served to be coming together and whatnot than to separate ourselves because of some petty dispute or some petty difference that isn't really all that important in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, at first I thought this song was limiting the scope of that unity to make all blacks come together, but this could be easily extrapolated to get everybody to come together. And I feel like that is something we desperately need right now. So yeah, I'm all for it. So yeah, and this is the first time I ever heard Rhapsody on a song. Like, Rhapsody, she's a great artist. She made a song, I think it's called Cleo? Or not a song, an album. Rhapsody, I'm looking it up right now, just so I can look at her discography. What is that album? Eve, that's the name of the album. Eve is a fucking fantastic album. That is a excellent body of work from her. She is a great rapper. She makes great music. She has so many great features. But yeah, this is the first time I ever heard of her. Once I heard this song, I'm like, she's great. And she has some good bars here. She is the only rap feature on this entire album. You know how crazy it is for Kendrick Lamar at his fucking peak to give one rap guest feature on his album, and it goes to a black woman? That is awesome to me. I think that's fucking incredible. And it's deserved. Like, she's on the album with Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg didn't even rap. He just got on here and talked for a little bit. So yeah, going to some of the bar facts, I really like that Stu Scott line. Stu Scott, He died earlier the year that this album came out. Stu Scott is an ESPN sportscaster who, you know, I even as someone who doesn't watch a lot of sports, I knew who Stu Scott was. I would walk in and he'd be talking on the TV when my parents were watching or my little brother, little sister were watching. So yeah, Stu Scott line, I thought that was great. Let me talk my Stu Scott. Excuse me on my Tupac. Love that line. And I love this sequence here. That's the real Blues baby, like you met Jay's baby. This is back when Blue Ivy was born and everybody was in a fever about that. She makes a lot of references to like Jay-Z and Beyonce here, and I think those are really cool. Another bar facts I want to point out here. All my solemn men up north, 12 years a slave, 12 years of age, thinking my skin too dark. Solemn men up north, Solomon Northup from the movie 12 Years a Slave. That was the slave movie of the time. I really don't like that phrase, the slave movie of the time. This is back when I feel like around 12 Years a Slave, that was kind of the last gasp of like, hey, we can make a slave movie as a word bait and everyone will go watch it and see it and appreciate it. I feel like now us as a people, like black people specifically, we're tired of slave movies. And I think white guilt has gotten to the point where I don't think they want to have the chance to enjoy a slave movie. So like, I think we're just beyond that point. But back then, 2015, 12 Years a Slave, everybody was watching that and they were like, all the think pieces and whatnot about it. Oh, it's powerful cinema and stuff. And yeah, it's a good movie. I've seen it. But like, we want to watch some Django Unchained now. We don't want to see where they suffering for 12 years. We want to see where they fucking shit up. That's what we want. So yeah, and then the 12 Years of Age, thinking my shade too dark. If you ever seen Rhapsody, she is a dark-skinned woman. She is beautiful. And she, you know, probably got a lot of ire at a young age of being so dark. But she grew into it wonderfully. And you look at her now, she is fucking killing the game. She's one of the best lyricists out there, female or otherwise. She's one of the best lyricists out right now. So I love her. She is great. So yeah, the last bar facts I wanted to say about her, ain't no stressing jigaboos wanna be. I ain't talking J, I ain't talking B. I'm talking days we got school watching movie screens and spike your self-esteem. The new James Bond, Go Me Black as Me. This was back in 2015 where there was a lot of talk and controversy about James Bond. There was rumors that they were gonna get a different James Bond, that Daniel Craig wasn't gonna be the next James Bond. They were gonna put someone else in the 007 seat. And I don't know if it came out that the black woman from Captain Marvel, that she was going to be the actress that would replace 007. Didn't replace James Bond, but replaced the 007 position that James Bond once stood for because he left the force or whatever. So yeah, rumors about that were swirling. People were like, Idris Elba's gonna be in it because people have been saying Idris Elba for James Bond for fucking ever. So this was kind of a hint towards that, despite history playing out a little bit differently. And then the Jigaboos line at the beginning, like Jigga's boo, like, you know, Jay-Z's boo is Beyonce. I love that line. I thought that was great. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful bars there and a beautiful track. Emotionally, this song just like makes me so happy. It just brings me so much joy whenever I listen to it. And it's just it's a song about black unity, but it can also very easily be extrapolated into just unity overall. Like one nation, it's our nation. Like we are all we are one. So all that good stuff there. So then the ending of this track kind of teases the energy for the next track. It kind of like clears the table so that we can go buck wild with the next track here. And I swear to God, Avi, I am on the fucking recording thing. She's gonna make, if she listens, I don't think she's gonna listen to this video, but like, God, I am going to have words with her if she hears this or not. I don't know. It's not that big a deal. Anyway, so yeah, the ending teases the energy of the next track here. And that energy is The Blacker the Berry. Sorry, she really threw me off. I lost my place in my notes and everything. God, this is gonna be a long video. I am so sorry, y'all. I'm looking at the rest of these notes here. The Blacker the Berry. Let's talk about it. This album is the Rager track. This is the aggressive track. And I like how this track comes right after the Black Unity song, because everything that, you know, My Black is Beautiful, everything that we love about ourselves, we are mad at the white establishment for making us feel shame about. And this track, The Blacker the Berry, is the song where we release all that rage, release all that energy in spectacular fashion. And it's wild that the song is on the same album as These Walls. Like the fucking emotional range that we are on in this fucking shit. And I love the I'm African American, I'm black as the moon, like just screaming it out, like saying it like this is what I am, fuck you if you're gonna make me feel shame for it. And I love that. Like it just, it meshes so well. It complements so well with the Zulu Nation talking about, yo, we as black people need to unite as one. Black Kid Berry is like, yo, fuck you for making us feel shame for the things that we are gonna unify around. And just a great combination. I fucking love it. He's just going in on like all how the racists and their systems make folk like us feel lesser. And I wrote in my notes, this is the kind of music I imagine playing while gunning down the KKK and Mafia 3. Like, yeah, this is for real, that playlist. Like, this is fucking great. And then you have the last line here, because the entire, the entire song is talking about a bunch of, things to do as a black person, things that they've been shouted out and decried for being black and for having these opinions, for doing these things, blah 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 blah. But then you get the last line where he's like, so why did I weep when Trayvon Martin was in the street, when gang banging made me kill a nigga blacker than me? Hypocrite. That line hits like a truck, because the entire song is about how you deride me for being black, you deride me for being so proudly black. But if I'm going to be so proudly black, how am I going to take out somebody who is even blacker than me, potentially? But that's not really the point. It's how am I going to take out somebody who also should have that pride, who also feels pro-black, who also should be on my side? And that is, to go back to the last album, that's due to the Mad City. We live in a fucking capitalist society that makes us turn on each other, and it's so much easier to get the money from the person next to you than to get it out the safe of the person above you, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's so harder to like get together and go against the establishment, because that seems like such an impossible task compared to, oh, I could just, me by myself could go over here next door and take from them. It's so easy to fall into that mentality, but if we're really talking about unity, if it's really about that life, we have to sit here and we have to be better than that. And it's hard to be better than that, but we have to. That's the only way we can move forward. So yeah, it's that hypocrite line really hits, because it's like, not only is Kendrick calling himself out on it, he's also like kind of illustrating how that's the case for a lot of us. Like the Blacker the Berry is probably the track that a lot of people are going to be so relating to. Like, not only is this just instrumentally, it's the boom bap song, it's the most like nakedly, like, this is a fucking aggressive rap anthem. Like, where all the rest of these songs are like very jazzy, very funky, very slightly experimental, the Blacker the Berry is like in your face, just outright, oh, this is the rap song, let's fucking go. So a lot of people are going to love this song, a lot of people are going to relate to this song. And so it really hits when you have that hypocrite line in there. It makes people think. Like, if you're somebody who's like, oh, I wasn't fucking with this album until you got the Blacker the Berry, then you hit that hypocrite line and it's like, shit, bro. Like, it makes you think. It makes you think. So yeah, I love this. It's a painful reality where the entire song kind of feels like a rageful fever dream where you're just crying angry, but the end is like, shit. Like, it's really like that. Like, it's a cold bucket of water emotionally for you at the end of the song. So yeah, love the Blacker the Berry. I think it's a great track. Then after that, we have You Ain't Gotta Lie, parentheses, Mama Said. This one is about Kendrick actually going home. And I kind of relate to this song. It's like that feeling of trying to act like you belong after you've been away from home for a very long time. Just when you're getting back in there with your friend group and you're getting back in there with your family. And I've had this every now and then where if it's been long enough where I haven't seen like my cousins in Florida and stuff like that, just when I'm back hanging out with them again, there is that little awkward gap of time where it's like maybe just a couple hours, or if you're really bad, like a day or two, where you just feel awkward, where you feel like, all right, what's the style? Like, am I like, because we're not all into the same things, me and my cousins. Like, we have things that we have in common, like, me and my cousin Janelle, we love Chance the Rapper, stuff like that, but we're not always completely in sync. Like, I'm playing Naughty Bear in this video review, and I've been playing Naughty Bear for over 90 minutes at this point. God damn, I have to play so much Naughty Bear. Fuck. But any case, yeah, I've been playing. I guarantee you, none of my cousins know what Naughty Bear is. And very few of them even own a games console. Very few of them care about a games console. So, there's different things. You have to have a different vibe for different relatives, because they're not always going to be the same exactly as you. So yeah, I kind of feel that act where you're like, all right, how should I act around this? What kayfabe do I put on today? But eventually, it just fades away. You're no longer trying to put on the kayfabe, and you're like, all right, let me just be myself. And you don't have to be your entire self all of the time. Is something that I like to say. But as long as you feel authentic to at least that fraction of you, that is real. I feel that. So yeah, I love the flow switch ups on here. I like that one verse was like, what do you have to offer? Put yourself in a coffin. Like, I love that. Like he's just it feels like he's playful with the lyrics here, which I really, really like. And honestly, the themes of this song is what I thought the song Mama was about. But ultimately, all these themes belong to just this song about coming home and being more comfortable around yourself. And I love the little vocodery sounds at the end where it's like you know the sound I'm talking about. I love that ending because it kind of like gives like, it's like in a movie where they pan up to the sunset to show that everything's gonna be good. It's a new day. It kind of gives that vibe to it. So yeah, I love You Ain't Gonna Lie. It's a great track. I would say, here's the thing. I would say this feels like a filler track, but I do still think it's vital because I think it sets a proper bridge from the emotional high of the Blacker the Berry to the joyous highs of I think if you just put those songs back to back, it wouldn't be as smooth. It would be kind of abrupt. You Ain't Gotta Lie kind of like puts that levity back into it and puts that like, finding your community again instead of raging as an individual. So I really do think it's vital. Even if I do feel like it is a kind of filler track, I do think it is still a great and vital track. So I love it and I think it's good. The next song here, not the studio version, the album version. This album version hits because I remember when the studio version of I came out, I was like, this is different. What the fuck is Kendrick gonna be on this next album? Because remember, I came out several months before To Pimp a Butterfly came out. So we were all like, whoa, what is going on? This is going to be something different. Because this nigga's literally like sampling the Isley Brothers. Like, what's going on? But this studio version, or this non-studio version, this album version, I love this version so much more. This version of the song sounds so much more raw and manic, and I love it for that. The screams that Kendrick's throwing in, the little ad-libs where he's like, and I love my, would you look at me? It feels like he's just like goofing around a little bit. It feels like he's just going ham, and it feels like a performance more than it does like a sanitized like commercial product like the original I sounded like. And it gives it an energy that the original sanitized version doesn't have because of it. And he even flubs some words. You hear him like fuck up a couple of the words and like have gaps of silence where there shouldn't be gaps of silence. And I feel like it adds authenticity to it, but it also shows that it's not about nailing all the words. It's about the vibe. The vibe is being caught no matter what, even if he's not nailing all the words. And especially with this like live audience atmosphere, I feel like that works so much more for the song. And I love the background singers, kind of like doing a Gladys Knights and the Pips type routine, where it's like, I went to war last night. I love that shit. I love background singers in songs like this. So I think it's great. And I love how he's performing it to a specific audience, where it doesn't just sound like where you don't hear the crowd in the background. You hear them like drumming up more and more, talk in the background, where they're starting to talk over him because they're not feeling the message. And that's why I like this performance frame, where it's a meta commentary on how his preaching might not be received to the people he's trying to spit game to, because he's trying to spit game to the type of people he grew up with in Compton. He's trying to spit game to all these black and brown boys and girls and days and dems all in here in the entire fucking world, not just this country, mainly this country, but the entire fucking world. And he's trying to spit this message to them, and they're not fucking with it. They're this whole thing of like self-love and peace and community and unity. They're over here fighting. A fight is breaking out while he's trying to preach this message of self-love. And it's ironic, but it's also kind of like a meta commentary of like, yo, I know y'all might not be fucking with this, but understand, like, listen, I'm trying to fucking get this to you. So when the fight breaks out, I think it's a real but heartbreaking touch, because some people just aren't going to get the message, and that's fine. Live your life. But like, he's trying to say something bigger than himself. And the whole spoken word part at the end, when I first heard it, gave me fucking chills, bro. Just fucking like, oh my God, what is he doing? Like NEGUS, I still have that shit in my Twitter bio to this day. Like 100% Negus, bro. And I wish that shirt was available because they have that shirt on in the fucking All Right music video. By the time I saw it, it was sold out forever. So like, bro, Negus king shit, bro. Like literally king emperor, king ruler. Now let me finish. Like I could damn near recite that whole little spoken word thing. But oh my God, it's just so, it hits so hard. That potent ending where it's like Kendrick Lamar by far realest Negus alive. Like, can you imagine the impact of that after you just heard this whole fucking album and just this entire journey, and it's coming to an end with the final track here of Mortal Man. And it's just, fuck, you want to talk about a perfect final album. Now this feels like it's the after credits, but it's less the after credits and it's more like the crescendo. Like this is just the climax of the album, where other albums he kind of ends it with like an after credits vibe, like I said on other videos, you know, Formation for Beyonce's Lemonade, where it's a fun track where you kind of release a lot of the pressure. Compton at the end of Good Kid, Mad City kind of had that energy. Mortal Man does not have that energy. Mortal Man is saying, hey, I just delivered this crazy, aggressive, straightforward, poignant message. I need y'all to have my back on this. Shit might hit the fan. I might be ostracized in certain communities. People might not fuck with me anymore. This might be my last time doing this shit, so I need y'all to fuck with me. That's why you got the when shit hit the fan, are you still a fan? Like black artists, a lot of black artists will preach, you know, these messages very straightforwardly, and they often get killed or punished by the establishment in some way. And it just gave me chills the first time I heard this. It felt like I was listening to something that was existing despite the environment around it. It felt transgressive in a way. And I just couldn't believe it the first time I heard it. I was like, holy shit. Like, this feels like this is some contraband. Like, these are so... It felt like I was listening to Dangerous Ideas, which was so fucking crazy in 2015. And so I just loved that. And then towards the end of the song, and then there's a very long skit that we'll talk about here. But towards the end of the actual song, he lists a bunch of influential blacks that have been betrayed by the public throughout history. And that list hit so hard. You know, he's talking about Huey Newton, talking about Malcolm X, talking about Martin Luther King, all these folks, and they've all been betrayed. Now he has, like, he ends it with, oh, I know, it's Michael Jackson. No, like, let me tell y'all, Michael Jackson is a very controversial figure in a lot of black households. Like, you want to talk about the ideation for Obama, Michael Jackson has a similar amount of ideation in black households. And it's harder for me to look at Michael Jackson as critically, because yes, he went through all those allegations during his own lifetime, and he got acquitted on all those and blah, 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 blah. We all know the story there. There's been an attempt since his death that, you know, there's been more evidence or more people wanting to come forward, blah, 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 more stories of maybe he did some more shit during his life than even we knew about when he was alive. And it's really hard to get a lot of black people on that train to understand it, because you could go on YouTube right now. There are dozens of videos to be like, yo, here's proof that Michael didn't do this. Because I know there's an HBO documentary, I think Leaving Neverland or Finding Neverland, one of the two, talking about, you know, talking to some of his victims here. And it is so hard to get the black community to get on that, because they will never believe that he did all that shit. They'll blame, oh, look at his childhood, he was already fucked up. They'll point to, like, I think it was there was one child actor, I want to say Corey Feldman, maybe I'm wrong. There's one child actor who went on a View and was like, because he was like, oh, I'm outing all these people in Hollywood that abused me, and they were like, oh, like Michael? And he was like, actually, Michael Jackson was perfect to me, he never gave me any issues, he's fine. And people hold up these one or two things that kind of cancel that out. There's just so much evidence on both sides of this conflict, and Michael Jackson is one of those artists where, for me personally, I grew up in a Michael Jackson household. My mom loves Michael Jackson, probably his favorite artist of all time. As I got older, I eventually came around to loving Michael Jackson as well. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. But it's really hard, because Michael Jackson is one of those people where we don't necessarily think of him as a transgressive artist. We don't think of him as an artist who was daring, who was like pushing boundaries. But like he had things like Earth Song, where he was talking about unity. He had songs like They Don't Care About Us, where he was talking about like oppression and these real issues. And these were like top 40 hits. Like these were very popular songs at the time, where he was talking about some real shit. Like he was never afraid to like talk about some real shit. And it's just a little bit hard to be like, yo, him talking about real shit, did that paint a target on his back, or did he actually do some shit? Because like people can believe the conspiracy theories of like, oh, they pinned these cases on him to, you know, shut him up. I can't confirm or deny any of that stuff clearly, because I'm just a guy. But like, it's hard to convince a lot of black people because we looked up to him so much. He was such an icon for so many little black boys and girls and days all over the world. It's like, it's hard to reprimand that. So when Kendrick uses Michael Jackson's name on here in that way to show like, oh, he's another person who was speaking the truth, but got not killed for it, but got like silenced for it. It's weird because like I have so many conflicting thoughts on Michael Jackson, so many difficult thoughts on Michael Jackson, to where him using that as like a unquestionably like, yeah, of course Michael was a good man, and I believe there was good in Michael, but like there's just so much other stuff around him that it's hard to like take it as a completely uncritical person. But yeah, that's the thing I want to say about Michael. You know, very interesting that Kendrick decided to bring him up. And yeah, I can't help it. I am an MJ fan, but he's not the only artist that I'm a fan of, despite problematic past and even problematic recents. Shout out to Eminem. I've made reviews of his music on this channel as well. So yeah, then we finally get the full poem read at the end of the album, and you know, it's beautiful, everyone loves it, it's great, blah 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 blah. And then we find out he's been reading this fucking poem to Tupac. Y'all, when I heard this album the first time and I heard fucking Tupac's voice come out, I just went limp. I remember it so clearly. I was in college, I was at Valdosta State, I was sitting in my dorm room. Actually, no, was I at Valdosta State? I was somewhere. If it came out in 2015, I went to Valdosta State from 13 to 14. And 15, I must have been at home. So I was at home, and I was just sitting in my chair, and I just went limp. I was like, I can't believe it. Like my heart jumped out of my chest. Like I damn near passed out. I was like, what the fuck? And so I was just like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it. At first I thought it was a real interview. I thought somehow Kendrick went to Cuba and interviewed this man, but I was like, oh my God, couldn't believe it. I was just losing my fucking mind. Of course, it's an edited old interview that he just like snipped together to make it sound like he was talking to him. And the jazz makes it feel like this entire interview is taking place in like an ethereal plane somewhere outside of reality, where both of these two legends can like converse without Kendrick crossing over to his side or Tupac crossing over to our side. And it's so fucking crazy. And I think, you know, in this interview where Tupac is like, yo, I think something they don't really know is that, you know, next time it's going to be murder. We ain't just going to be taking shit out of the shells. It's going to be bloodshed. And I don't think they're ready for that. I think that's where a certain seed was planted inside of me, because like, here's the thing. I'm a bitch. I ain't about that life. I'm a little bit of a coward. I ain't gonna lie to you. But like, whenever I see these horrible things happening in history, whenever I see Trump win the presidency, whenever I see Roe versus Wade getting repealed, whenever I see fucking all this shit happen and things continue to get worse, and people that said that they would fix it sit there and do nothing, whenever I see that stuff, there's a small part of me that's like, all right, let's look up their address, let's burn down their house right now. Let's go on some, God, what's the name of that one dude in fucking LA? There was this one cop in LA, I forget his name. Dave Chappelle had him, talked about him in a special, and Dave Chappelle's problematic in his own way, but Dave Chappelle talked about him in one of his comedy specials where he was a cop in somewhere in California, and he faced a lot of discrimination, or he saw a lot of cops doing some discriminatory things to people. He told his higher ups about it. They ignored it. They actually fired him because he was speaking out about it. And then he sat at home, couldn't get work and everything. So he waged war on the police officers themselves. He was killing police officers' families to wage psychological warfare on them. And he did this to a couple cops. He actually shot up a couple cops as well. They found him in a fucking cabin and gunned him the fuck down. They Swiss cheese this man, as Dave Chappelle said. Whoever that was is that type of thinking that I switch to just for a split second whenever I see some bad shit happen. Like when Roe v. Wade happened, I literally saw a tweet where they had put up the barriers in front of the Supreme Courthouse, and then someone quote tweeted that and said, "All right, that's cool, but that's not where they live." And I literally, that's where my mind went. Or I was like, "Yo, we should just, if we all they can't kill all of us. If we all pull up to the house, they have to do something, or we're gonna strike fear in their heart, and they're gonna actually do right by us." Like I always had that small seed, and I think that seed was planted right here with this Tupac interview between Tupac and Kendrick. It's not the healthiest thing. I know it is not healthy, and shit, this video could get demonetized just by me talking about that shit. But like, it is literally like my mind. I always have that in my head whenever I see horrible shit happen, that is always a possibility. And it is not always the most productive thing to think of, but oftentimes it gives me the most solace if I think, yo, we really could do some shit. But are we actually going to do some shit? And I look deep in my heart and I'm like, I don't have it in me to take a life. I barely have it in me to, shit, I don't even think I have it in me to threaten a life. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's a nice thing to think about, but maybe not the most productive thought in general. But that's where that seed was planted in. And yeah, that's just something I find really interesting there. And then the final poem that they have, where you get the little vocals coming in the background, where it's like that da da da, and he talks about this caterpillar, this whole poem. An equally beautiful poem. It is a wonderful epilogue. It ties into all the themes, all the song titles, everything we talked about in this whole album. He's recapping all this stuff for Tupac, and then he gets to the end, and it's just so gorgeous. It's so beautiful. Whenever I hear that poem, at the time I cried. Like I straight up was sobbing at that point. And even now, I still get very emotional when I hear that last poem there. And it's so fucking brilliant. And just when you get to the end, and Kendrick's like, Pac. The fact that Pac doesn't respond not only speaks to the fact that Tupac himself, his life was cut short. He was someone who clearly had some strong ideas, clearly had a way forward, and was gunned down before he was able to really properly give us those ideas and express those ideas. So not only does it talk about how his life got cut short, but how black people in general in this generation, we're not given the answers. Like all of our ancestors, they leave us high and dry and they tell us to go forward, but they don't really have the blueprint for this shit either. So they'll teach us what they can. They'll give us, the best little starter pack of shit, but then we go forward and we're in this fucking confusing world of all these things, of all these Lucy's, and we have to prevail and think everything's gonna be all right nonetheless. It is so fucking poignant, and the older I get, the more poignant that ending is, where it's like, yo, there's beauty in this world. We just heard in this epilogue poem that Kendrick reads, there is beauty in this world. You can get through it. But then when we look to somebody for answers, they don't really have answers for us. And often the answers they do have aren't that great. So it's just showing how there's no perfect ending. There's no happy ending. But you can infer from all the things that got us to this ending that we can make it okay. We can be all right. And it can plant the seed that can make the world a better place possibly. So yeah, we don't get proper closure, but the jaggedness is an even sharper artistic statement in my opinion. So the jagged cut of that ending. So yeah, love this fucking album. I've talked about it for nearly 2 hours. To Pimp a Butterfly, it changed my life. Quite frankly, it changed my life. To Pimp a Butterfly changed my life. This is the album that made me who I am to a great deal, for all the reasons that I've talked about in this video. I can't imagine. Kendrick still hasn't put out a body of work as impressive as this to this day. And as we continue, I probably won't have 2 hours of things to say about it. But I can just say I will always love Kendrick Lamar no matter what he does based off of this body of work alone. To Pimp a Butterfly, it's a core defining just piece of art that has defined me. You talk about pieces of art that have defined me. You're talking about your your Life is Stranges, your Bayonettas, your Titanfall 2s, your fucking Shadow of the Colossuses, your fucking The Last of Us. You talk about those games that have defined me. You talk about music that's defined me from folks like Eminem, from folks like Tribe Called Quest, from folks like Beyonce, Ariana Grande, Chloe and Halle. And then you get to this, To Pimp a Butterfly. This just stands alone as one of the most influential pieces of art in my life. And God damn it, I'm just so grateful for it. I'm so grateful. To this day, I still wish I was able to see those groove sessions that he did when he was on tour. I wish I was able to buy more merch from that era because I was a broke little college boy. But God damn, man, I will always be in debt to Kendrick for putting out this piece of art that has changed me so deep to my core. And hopefully y'all enjoyed me talking about it for all this time. So thank y'all very much for watching this video. Thank you for supporting. We still got 2 more albums to talk about here. We got Untitled Unmastered coming up next. And then after that, to wrap it up, we have the Black Panther album leading into Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers coming out on Friday the 13th. So thank you all for listening to this one. Thank you all for watching. If you want to listen to my podcast, you can listen to the Players Club podcast where I talk mostly just about video games there. That link will be in the description. I will be writing my review of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers on VGU.tv. So you'll see a link down there where you can just look at all my articles for that I've done for VGU at this point. You can follow me on Twitter as well at EJSpun61. That link is in the description as well. And if you want to see more music stuff from me, not only did I do a review of Donda on VGU.tv, but on my YouTube channel, I have a whole playlist of just music discussions from a bunch of different artists. So you can look at that there, look at that playlist. I've been making videos like these for years. A lot of them are way shorter than this, thankfully. But I've talked enough today. I'm probably going to listen to this album again and then get started on the Untitled Remastered notes because I really need to get going on these videos if I want them to be every day. So yeah, thank y'all once again. Thank you, Kendrick, for making the best piece of art in a decade, in my opinion. And yeah, that's all I got to say today. And as I always say, this has been Emmett Watkins Jr., also known as EJSpun61. And I'll see you later. And as I always say, keep it real, keep it trill, and play on, play on. Or pimp on, pimp. Actually, nah, pimp, pimp, hooray. We'll say pimp, pimp, hooray. That's good. All right, peace out, y'all.